I'm back, baby.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_beeble. Today's episode also brought to you by Manscaping and Bombas. I am back in Australia from the United States. Haven't had a podcast in 2 weeks as I was having a vacation over there. I've been over there for the entirety of the month of July. It is now the 31st of July. I'm back in Australia now. I'll probably talk a little bit about my travels at some point scattered through the last couple of shows. Went to 6 cities, was in San Francisco, Las Vegas for Summer League, New York, Montreal, Miami, and ended up in New Orleans. Glad to be back home, although the cold weather is not ideal, but we've got a lot of fantasy basketball to talk about. Your schedule for Fantasy Basketball podcast is going to be absolutely packed, jammed full, right in your ballsack. There's going to be so much content coming. You're going to get 2 shows a day at some point as well. Team previews, positional tiers with Matt Smith, me and Kyle talking about our projections, rookies, dynasties, so much stuff leading up to the start of the season. Michael Bolton, he is absolutely rock hard, ready to go.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. All right. So what I thought I'd do for the first show back, I only arrived back yesterday after being awake for about 46 hours straight, so my head's not completely on straight. So we're going with a mailbag show here to start things off. But before we talk mailbag, before I answer questions, I'm going to try and get as many questions that you guys sent through answered. There was over 60 of them. I don't think I'm going to get all of them, but we'll see how we go. But some information on the Red Rock Challenge Leagues. You're all aware of these leagues. We do them throughout each year. It's about the 5th year I think we're doing them. Redraft leagues. We expanded it last year, hosted over 60 leagues. They were head-to-head category leagues, points leagues, roto leagues, draft-only roto leagues, draft-only points leagues, draft-only head-to-head leagues. The winners of each of those leagues in the regular season moves and trades leagues, they all go into a Champions League. So all the Champions League invites have been sent out for their head-to-head Champions League, where you take on me and Matt Smith, plus the winners of all of the other Red Rock Challenge head-to-head leagues last year. The Roto Champions League, where you take on me and Matt Smith again, plus the winners of all the other leagues last year. And for the first time, a Points Champions League, where all the winners from the Points Leagues last year take on myself and Kyle McEwen in the Points League Champions League. So all the invites of those have been sent out. Check them out. What we're doing a little bit different this year, we trialed it in the Tier 2 leagues last season because all of the head-to-head leagues filled up really quickly last year. So what I did is I created another 10 head-to-head leagues. The winners of those leagues all got a spot in the main pool of the Red Rock Challenge leagues. But to get into those leagues, what we did was a charity donation. We raised about $1,000, I believe, for the Fantasy Cares charity. Go check that out. Scott Fish, if any of you guys know fantasy football, Scott Fish runs the Fish Bowl, Scott Fish Bowl contest. I think he's up to the 9th one this year and does a big donation portion, and it goes towards charity. So we started donating last year over $1,000, and I'm looking to push to $3,000 this year. So what we're going to do is every league is going to have a donation portion. It's not going to be much for the high-end dollar leagues. It's going to be $10. For the lower ones, it's $5. So to enter the leagues, it's a $5 charity donation plus the amount that you donate, or not donate. Some of you might be donating if you finish last, but the amount that you put in to play in the league. Majority of the leagues will have a paid entry, as in you'll be playing for cash. Some of them will be free, but we're also introducing, as well as more paid leagues, as well as a charity portion, we're also introducing some of those leagues being auction leagues. Now, in the past, all of the Red Rock Challenge leagues have been slow snake draft formats over 2 to 3 weeks, 6 to 8 hours per pick. This year, a few of the leagues in all of the different formats are going to be auction leagues. So there'll be a set time, a set date for those leagues done. If you can make the auction at that point, you make it, you're in, and you go do the auction. So we're going to be introducing auction leagues. I think we can fill out another 60 plus leagues again this year. In fact, I reckon we can go to 80 leagues this season. If the demand's there, we'll do more of the tier 2 stuff for the head-to-head. There's going to be the 12... So the 11 head-to-head leagues, the 11 points leagues, the 11 roto leagues, and then if those fill up, we'll just do backfill ones, same as we did this year, and then there'll be a bunch of draft-only leagues as well. So a lot of stuff happening. Keep an eye out. Patreon subscribers, patreon.com/redrock_beeble, they get first crack at entering these leagues. So if you want to get first crack and your choice of league, your choice of price point, your choice of auction versus snake, your choice of format, onto Patreon. The rest will be put out either on Twitter, sometimes in YouTube comments, all that sort of stuff. So it'll be in Instagram as well. It'll come out, in a number of different areas. So that's the news on the Red Rock Challenge Leagues. Let's start to talk mailbag and the questions that you guys sent in. Before we do that, got to tell you that support of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast comes from Manscaped, number one in men's below-the-belt grooming. You may have seen them on Shark Tank. Manscaping offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. If you're going to be shaving your ballsack, Manscaped is the place that you want to go. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% at manscaped.com with the promo code LOCKEDON. And now, questions from you guys. I'm going to be going quick through these because there are so many of them. Let's go through to a few of these. Some of them I won't answer because maybe they weren't that great of a question, but we'll see how we go. Ditch Mitch says, Dennis Smith Jr. or Alfred Payton? I think the Knicks will want to go with Smith as their starting point guard, but Payton will cut into it. And in the end, what I think will end up happening is it will probably, with the way that Fizdale runs his rotations, it'll mean both of these guys are stream at best options in standard leagues. I think it'll be like a 27-21. There'll be nights when Payton plays 30 and Smith plays 18, or 33 to Smith and 15 to Payton. It'll be a lot of that, I think. They want Smith to be that, one of the guys that came across in the Porzingis trade. But if they don't have faith and if Fizdale doesn't know how to develop a player, then we will see that issue with Payton coming in there. So I think at this point we have to give the slight edge to Smith. To me, he's the incumbent starting point guard, but I don't have a huge amount of confidence in that. Jamie Hendon says, will Derek White and DeJounte Murray start? That's a really good question. That Spurs backcourt, there's a lot of pieces. There's Derek White, who was obviously really strong for portions of last season. Popovich limited him at times and had a bit of a quick hook, but that happens with guys in their first season. DeJounte missed all of last season with an ACL injury, and he is back. Bryn Forbes was the starter at shooting guard, and he's going to be one of the only guys in that starting five who actually can shoot. So his spot, now he does nothing else apart from shoot, we know that, but he can shoot, and he can shoot threes, and he can do it at 40%. And then you've got Pat Mills, and then, of course, you've got Lonnie Walker. A lot of people are hyping up Lonnie Walker at the moment, but as things stand, he's the fifth guard on this team, and that's not even including DeMar DeRozan, who really is a guard and not a forward, although he'll play a lot of small forward this season. So I don't see where Lonnie fits in. Now, will both of these guys start? It is going to hamper their spacing quite a bit to have DeJounte and Derek White out there, but with how well Derek White played and how well DeJounte played the year before, I think that even if they both don't start, they're going to both get high 20s minimum in terms of minutes, and I think they're worth taking as flyers at the back end of drafts. Jamie Hendon doubles up with another question. What is Tatum and Bagley's ceiling? Both of them can be top 25 at minimum. I'm not a massive fan of Bagley as an overall player, and some of his concerns in terms of lack of assists, low percentages is a problem, but overall he could be like a 25 and 12 guy, which is enough volume in those categories to push him into that area, and then if the blocks and the threes and the assists start to come along, he'll be there. Tatum can push, I believe, to a top 15 player, but he's a long way away from that. Think Rudy Gay as a fantasy archetype, a guy that can produce marginally above average in every category. One of those categories needs to skyrocket. He needs to become a 23, 24 point per game guy. He needs to be a 1.7, 1.6 steals guy. He needs to get to 4.5, 5 assists. And those things are tough, but I think he can get there. Next question. Nick Moloff says, do I give up Luka Doncic for Ja Morant and Domantas Sabonis in a Dynasty League? No, you do not. So thank you for that question. Master of the Universe. Is Trae Young a solid second round pick this year? Well, I have started the Basketball Monster projection process. I have done 2 teams so far, and Trae Young's numbers come out absolutely eye-poppingly. Not only have we heard the word from Travis Schlenk that he's going to be playing maybe 35 minutes a game, I'll ease off on that, maybe 34, but the way he played at the end of the season, one of the big things with Trae Young, excellent free throw shooter, huge free throw volume, so we can get that. He averaged about 10 assists per game over the second half of last season, over a steal per game. His 3-point shooting, that can still get better. His 2-point shooting, that can still get better. And he was a guy that was like 25th to 26th last year in that post-All-Star break period, despite still not shooting well. So yeah, second round pick, absolutely no doubt about that. Master of the Universe chucked a few in there. He said DeJounte Murray breakdown again. I talked about DeJounte a bit. I think there will be some handicaps on him in terms of the minutes, but as a really good rebounder, a steals guy, you're going to get no assist, limited scoring. That's a problem with DeJounte. To me, he's just a last round guy. And his other question, Rowdy Rodion's Kuruks. What are your thoughts for the year? Well, one of the other teams I have projected out so far are the Brooklyn Nets. I think that Rowdy will be the starting power forward for this team, but that doesn't mean 30 minutes a night. There's Torian Prince there, the artist. He's still an option to come in and play power forward. Of course, Damari Carroll, Jared Dudley, Rondé Hollis Jefferson are all gone. Kevin Durant, we won't see him this season within all likelihood, 99.9% chance he doesn't play in the regular season. I think Kuruks is a top 100 guy at some point in his career. That point I don't think is this year, and then when Kevin Durant comes back, that is going to limit him a little bit. But as a guy that can come in and hit threes, he's going to get that percentage up. He could be an interesting type of guy, but more of a deeper league sort of a player. Skins fan #DMV says, who would you rather have in a Dynasty League, Bam Adebayo or Thomas Bryant? Now for me to take a breath, I'm going to play the sound effect. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, there's your answer. It's Bam Adebayo. He is going to be massive this season. Hassan Whiteside's gone. Kelly Olynyk, although he was thought to be traded to Dallas, he wasn't. He's still there as a backup. Bam's going to play 30 minutes a night. Minimum, he will be a top 50 player minimum. Now, I think Thomas Bryant will still be around that top 50 guy, but in terms of who is the long-term starting caliber center in the NBA, it's Bam Adebayo. Bryant's defense is a problem. I really do like Bryant and his fantasy potential, but it's Bam pretty much all the way. Ditch Mitch coming in with another question here. Where are you putting Mitchell Robinson, Trae Young, Zion Williamson, Bam Adebayo, Terry Rozier, and Drew Holiday? Hearing a lot of hype on these guys. Well, I don't know yet because I haven't come out with all these guys. Trae's going to be a second round guy. Zion is probably going to be, to me, when I do the projections, I don't know where he'll come out because, again, when I do rankings, I don't go, I think this guy's 30 and this guy's 40 and I have this guy 25. I do all their numbers and I see where it all comes out. So I don't come in and say, I don't engineer the projections around where I think the guy is going to be ranked. I do the projections and then they come out in that spot. I think he's probably going to come out in the third round to me, and I have real confidence that his ADP is going to be in the top 25, and that will make it maybe a little bit stiff for me to get him. Mitchie Robinson, I reckon, might come out as a top 20 guy. He's going to get reached by a lot of people. Hassan Whiteside, peak type of guy. Rudy Gobert. I think we can expect that from Robinson. Now, foul trouble is a real problem from him, and it's going to be inconsistency, plus the fact that Taj Gibson's best position is at center. Bobby Portis's best position is at center. Julius Randle's best position is at center. All those guys are on the same team. Now, Randle will start at power forward. I don't know where they're going to put Gibson and Portis, but there is a lot of options for Fizdale to screw around with really the only top-level prospect, shout out to RJ Barrett, on the Knicks. So there is a concern there, but I think his projections will come out pretty high, but foul trouble's the one thing that's going to be a problem. Terry Rozier, he's just gross as a fantasy player, low assists, low percentages. He'll rebound really strongly. He can get steals. I think he'll get overdrafted significantly, but in saying that, a starting point guard with nobody else on that team, 30, 35 minutes a night he's going to get. He's going to be a top 70 guy. I feel pretty comfortable with that, and Drew Holiday is going to be top 20, no doubt about that, maybe higher. Darcy Corbett, who are your top 5, bottom 5 league pass teams this year? Well, I'm going to do a full podcast of that when I do award predictions later on, so I'm not going to go into that, but a team like the Memphis Grizzlies is definitely going to be fun to watch. The Sixers with Al Horford and Joshie Richardson, two really fun players to watch, are going to be right up there as well. Just watching how all these new pieces fit together. Westbrook and Harden in Houston, that's going to be massive. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, of course, with the Clippers. How all that works is going to be very, very intriguing. Jim Butler in Miami. The Pelicans, how can I forget the Pelicans? In terms of fun, Pelicans and Grizzlies and Hawks are right up there. In terms of interesting how things go, you're looking at the Rockets, you're looking at the Clippers, and you're looking at the Sixers. So they're probably my top 5. Bottom 5, Charlotte is going to be an absolute disaster. Bradley Beal and the Wizards. Beal's great. The rest of that team is undeniably shitful. And outside of those guys, I don't really know. Like, who's not that interesting? The Spurs never seem to be that interesting. I know I get shit on a lot by saying that. There's not that much that interests me with that team. The Phoenix Suns, there's still some excitement there. Bridges and Ayton and Booker. The Kings, De'Aaron Fox, Bagley, there's a lot of excitement with those guys. So there's not a ton of teams, but the Hornets and the Wizards are in their own class. Even the Bulls are going to be interesting to watch this year. The Wizards and the Hornets, man, just throw them out. There's only 28 teams in the NBA this year. McNair. Will Ish Smith be a top 100 guy this season? Someone has to play and put up numbers in Washington. Man, I heard this question. I was listening back to old episodes that I didn't catch up on when I was away of the Dunked On podcast. Nate and Danny, I think Fred Katz had posed this question, who's the second best player on the Wizards? And they came up with Ish Smith. That's how bad things are there. So maybe Isaiah Thomas also there as a point guard. Justin Robinson has a real chance as an undrafted rookie to be maybe the best point guard on this team by the end of the season. Will he be a top 100 guy? If he is, it will be barely. He's not a huge volume scorer. He's not a massive, huge volume assist guy, but he can provide those assists. So I'll probably say yes. And then Master of the Universe, just prolific with the questions. Adding to this, can you see Troy Brown stepping up to fill some facilitation scoring load? Yes. Facilitation, yes. Scoring, maybe not. A really, really good rebounder, Troy Brown. Played a lot at the end of last season, replacing Trevor Ariza in the rotation. And could Justin Robinson get minutes? Yes, I do think that is a possibility. Brown's an interesting late-round flyer, but I'll have to see how that all projects out. Before I go on to the next question, just one more little note. Bombas, they are the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. Plus, for every Bombas purchase, they donate a pair to someone in need. Find out about more what feet daydream about at Bombas, bombas.com/locked today and get 20% off at bombas.com/locked. All right, next question comes from, and I apologise if I'm mispronouncing this, Josh Fathalahi. Fathalahi. Sorry, Josh. I know you write a lot of stuff in here on the YouTube comments and on Twitter as well. Who do you think takes the biggest assist hit out of Harden and Westbrook? Well, we saw Harden's assist drop pretty significantly when Chris Paul came, so I'm going to think that it is going to be Harden. Westbrook is going to be playing more of that traditional point guard role. Harden will still handle the ball. Now, when we're looking at Harden's assist numbers, will they take a drop from last season? Probably not, but back from the time when he wasn't without Chris Paul, I think they'll stay in that number. So if I had to judge based on last season's numbers, I think Harden's numbers stay pretty similar and Westbrook's might drop by 1.5 assists. So even that's a roundabout way of me saying overall, from his peak assist numbers, Harden drops the most, but from last season, Westbrook probably drops more. Unbreakable says, I'm interested in your take on Ja Morant for this season in head-to-head. Do you think he has Trae Young type potential in terms of first season numbers? Slow going early on, but a lead after the All-Star breaks? No, I don't, because he's not that shooter. He's not that level of a scorer. He is going to have the minutes, although Tyus Jones is there as well, so that might mean that he's not getting 33 a night. Maybe it's 30, 31 as he goes through some of those struggles. So no, I don't think he's quite Trae Young. Is he a top 75 draft target? Yeah, probably, and I think that's probably the right spot. And if he finished the post All-Star break inside the top 50, I think that's entirely likely and possible, although Trae Young was like the top 25 guy. So that's the difference I have between those guys. Kyo, does Lonnie Walker look promising? I don't really like Lonnie Walker's fantasy game. He can score. I don't know what else he can do. Can he shoot threes that well? Not yet. Rebound, assist, steal, block? No. Get to the line? No. And there's a lot ahead of him. So a lot of people are really talking up Lonnie Walker, and I'm listening to that. I just don't see it from a fantasy point of view. Dave says, what's Lonzo's outlook for 19-20? Well, better than last season, I'll tell you that. He does still have to deal with guys like Drew Holiday handling the ball, Brandon Ingram handling the ball, and of course, Zion Williamson handling the ball. But I think we'll see big numbers from Lonzo. And if Lonzo, I think it's more likely that Lonzo finishes inside the top 30 than outside the top 100 for this season. His shooting obviously has to take that step forward, but rebounding, assist numbers, they should spike back up. And I think we'll see some pretty strong numbers from Lonzo Ball this season. So I think he is going to be a guy that you don't have to take in the top 50, but has a real chance of finishing there. Next question. Stone Hansen, what is Tyus Jones' ceiling and median outcome this season? Well, it's going to take a bit for him to get to his ceiling because Ja Morant's going to be the starting point guard. So I think getting top 100 numbers from Tyus Jones is probably a stretch. Will they play him and Ja together? They can, absolutely. I really like what Tyus can do. Elite assist to turnover guy, can generate steals, but did fall off a little bit last season. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how they do use him there. Again, their starting shooting guard in Memphis is Dillon Brooks at the moment, so an opportunity for a two-point guard backcourt is obviously massive. And Taylor Jenkins, the new head coach of the Grizzlies, came from the Bucks where they did a lot of Brogdon and Bledsoe together, George Hill and Bledsoe, two-point guard mixes. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jones ends up playing more than Dillon Brooks over the course of the season. He's never a high usage guy. He's not going to be a high scorer. And with Morant there, his assist numbers aren't going to really be that high. So I'm not sure he's going to be a standard league type of a guy. Figgy says, we haven't had a proper summer league rundown. Which players impressed you the most, and have you changed your pre-summer league opinion on any players? Yes, but I'm going to save that for a podcast I'm doing later this week. One guy just to mention who just recently signed a two-way with the Dallas Mavericks who's worth looking at, Josh Reeves, was really impressive in Summer League, and he's a guy that earned that two-way. He's just a name to watch, someone who played really, really well in Summer League. But I'm going to go through more of that later on when I do that in another show. Nick Onixhook, apologise if I screwed that up, Nick. I'll echo Lonzo's outlook. Well, I've already said that. Also, could Zach Collins sneak into the top 100? Well, Zach Collins is going to be the starting power forward in Portland. So, yeah, he can be. If he gets 30 minutes a night, he can block shots, he can hit threes, he can get steals, he can rebound, he can score. These are all things that are going to push him into the top 100. So there's a real opportunity for him there as that starting power forward, and also play some backup center minutes next to Hassan Whiteside. Now, blocking shots is going to be Whiteside's purview, but Collins can still do that. Who do you think will go undrafted in standard leagues? It could be a waiver wire pickup for this year's waiver wire pickup of the year contender. Sorry, I haven't got into that enough just yet to give a proper answer on that, because I need to go. Need to go in and have a look at how that all that pans out, and to know who's going to go undrafted, we have to have a look at ADP numbers. Now the question is, do you think Ben Simmons attempts threes next year? Do I think he attempts more than 1 3? Yes. Do I think he starts doing it regularly? No. Dennis Smith Jr., we've already had that one. How have your rookie dynasty rankings? So we've done that one as well. Where would you take Zion? This is from whatever. Advanced Stats 23. Go follow Phil as well, especially if you're into basketball. If you're into basketball, follow Phil. But if you're into baseball, go and follow Phil with a lot of his stuff on baseball prospects. Really knowledgeable over there. Where would you take Zion Williamson in a dynasty startup league, both salary and non-salary? Well, in salary, his value goes through the roof. He's a first-round guy, rookie scale contract for the next 4 years. That is massive, massive value, and he is a clear top 8, top 7 sort of a guy in a real salary league. In a non-salary, there's a lot of risk associated with rookies because we can have guys come out and they can be good or they can be shit. But in terms of, in fact,
sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Zion Williamson, with the level of productivity in college, unparalleled. The hype, the prospect evaluation, unparalleled outside of LeBron James, pretty much. I think you cannot let him slip past the top 15 in a dynasty startup league. Now, if he doesn't pan out, then you've screwed your team, but then you go into tank mode. So I think you've got to take a look at him there. And as I had on my last 2 years dynasty combined rankings, I had him as number 1, ahead of Luka Doncic, ahead of Trae Young, and I'll stick with that. So I think he's probably a top 7 guy in a real salary and probably a top 12, top 12, let's say top 12 in a non-salary league. Shaquille O'Neal, spelled incorrectly. Will you steer deliberately? Will you steer clear of guys like Kawhi Leonard?
I'm a fun guy.
That have consistent rest days. Who do you think will have their load managed?
Giggity.
I think the term load management obviously came to the face of everything last season with Kawhi Leonard. And people are really going hard on it this year. Oh, everyone's going to be load managed. Not everyone is in the same situation as Kawhi Leonard. Okay, let's work it out. The year before, he missed the entire season outside of 9 games because of this quad issue. One of the reasons he ended up getting traded from the Spurs to the Raptors is because he did not like how the Spurs handled his injury, and they told him, stop being a soft cock, harden up, and get out there. And he said, no, it's actually injured. I don't trust your doctors. There's something going on here. Why don't you believe me? Get rid of me. So the Raptors said, Kawhi, look, we want to win a championship. You can take us to the championship. Your leg's not feeling right. You have the days off. Take your 20 games off. That's fine. We understand that. We want you right for the playoffs, and it was the right decision. Now, he still was hobbled throughout the season, hobbled a bit in the playoffs, but played all those games. Now, he's seen that approach work, but that's not for everybody. No one else is in that situation of missing a whole season, causing distrust between themselves and the organization, forcing a trade, and then another team bowing to those ideas, which was in both those teams' best interest. So someone like Kawhi, will he have his load managed this season? Yeah, probably, but to the extent it was last season, no. And the 20 games that he missed last season wasn't all load management. He did sprain his ankle early in the season against the Golden State Warriors. He had a knee problem at some point as well. They weren't all load management days. There were some actual injuries involved in that as well. So will guys rest games? No doubt that they will. Will it be an absolute plague as is being made out in certain corners of the internet? I don't believe that it will be. Jeff Brown.
My name is Jeff.
What's Dillon Brooks' outlook if he starts at shooting guard for Memphis this year? Dillon Brooks wasn't very good as a rookie. He had a stretch in April when he was the only player on the team and his usage went absolutely through the roof and started doing everything, but now he comes in and he's behind Ja Morant, he's behind Jonas Valanciunas, he's behind Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., and probably Jay Crowder in terms of who's going to be taking those shots. So Brooks comes in. He's not someone who I think is a high ceiling player. I don't think he's a very good fantasy player. So I'm not all that interested in Dillon Brooks this season, even if he plays 30 plus minutes a night. 100% ROI says, do you think Devin Booker is still worth drafting second round this season? Absolutely yes. I think that he could, if by the end of the season, finish in the top 12. I think that's a distinct possibility. Wouldn't draft him there, but I think he can finish there. And who would you prefer drafting? Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. or DeAndre Ayton? Well, if it's for this season, I think it's Ayton. For the future, I think it's Jackson. For Dynasty Leagues, by the end of their rookie contracts, after year 4, I think Jackson will be the better player. For this season and last season, I think Ayton will be the better player in fantasy terms. Let's have a look. Next question. Lars V. Will Budrick Hield make a leap or stay the same? I'm not sure where he takes that leap. Like, what does he do now to get better than he was last season? The one thing he can do, and one of the reasons that he was a guy that I was pretty into heading into this season, and our projections had him out as a top 60 player, and most people thought that was pretty ludicrous at the time, is because his steal rate the year before was massive. He was at 1.5 steals per 36 in the 17-18 season. Last year, he actually became the 49th ranked player and did that while his steal rate plummeted all the way down to 0.8. So if he can keep what he did last season, shooting excellent, always going to be a great shooter. Got his rebounding up, the threes at a huge volume. It's got to the line at over double the amount of the year before, which is another thing he really needed to improve on. And if those steals go back up, then yeah, he can become a top 25 guy. But will he get better than 21, 5, and 2.5 with 3.5 threes on 46 and 89? That seems hard to see any of those numbers really skyrocketing. But if those steals go from 0.7 back to 1.2, 1.3, then yeah, then he jumps. But that's really where I see the limit in terms of Budrick Hield's numbers coming up. Dan Wynn says, how do you feel about Jeremy Lin and his free agency situation? I feel like anyone hanging shit on Jeremy Lin needs to reevaluate themselves. You know what? He's made $60 million. He won an NBA championship. That's all well and good. I never understand that, oh man, if I had $60 million and won a championship, I wouldn't be crying about stuff. A, you don't know that because you're not in that situation. And just because someone has money or has what you perceive as success doesn't mean there aren't a whole lot of other things that go into that. Now, when Jeremy Lin was talking about this, it was, he was bothered by the fact that, hey, the NBA seems to be giving up on me. This is what I've worked my whole life for and I'm done. He wants to go over. Could he go overseas? Sure. Would teams be able to benefit from Jeremy Lin this season? I'm not so sure because, look, he was really, really playing well before that kneecap injury in Brooklyn, and that's basically finished his career off, unfortunately, for Lin. And I understand teams not wanting or not bringing him in to sign him. I could see him getting signed at some point during the season. Could he be more serviceable as a third-string point guard than what's happening in Orlando? Actually, not third string because we've got Michael Carter-Williams, DJ Augustin, and Markelle Fultz. But could he be like a Michael Carter-Williams type of guy? Yeah. But I don't think that it's the wrong choice for NBA teams not to be pursuing Lin to sign him, but I also think that he is totally justified in feeling what he feels. His battles with depression in the past. Money doesn't change anything. It doesn't cure people's problems. As much as people without money might think that it does, it doesn't. Mental health is not classist, and Lin has had a lot of issues in that regard. Mio Organic says, next year's draft class, what do you think? Start gathering picks or selling? So for what I understand with next year's draft class, a lot of point guards, right? A lot of ball handling type of guys. There's no Zion Williamson in this pick, in this draft. Now, the way I saw it described to me for next year's draft class is that having pick number 3 or number 2 in next year's draft is probably the equivalent of having pick number 5 in a regular draft. So the top end talent, not quite there. But the next thing that I heard was if it's having pick number 14 in next year's draft is the equivalent of having pick number 5 in next year in an ordinary draft as well. So the depth is massive. So including or accumulating a bunch of picks is probably the smart idea. Now this year's draft, not very strong at all. Zion, great. Ja can be good. But outside of that, not so sure. Next year, you don't have that same top end talent, but a bunch of solid stars. Whereas this year's got a bunch of rotation guys, a bunch of really good starters, and someone might jump out and become that. But accumulating multiple picks in this next draft when there is a lot of strength, something that probably won't be matched until 2022 when the high schoolers come in, is probably a strong idea. Okay, next question. Rob B, what is your view of Kyle Anderson slow-mo in Dynasty Leagues? I really like Kyle Anderson last season, but with the moves the Grizzlies have made, Jaren Jackson Jr. solidifying at power forward with Jonas Valanciunas there, Brandon Clark coming in, and Jay Crowder also at small forward, I'm a little bit worried about what they're going to do with Anderson. I think he probably will struggle a bit this season, and if he can't get it going this year, I reckon his Dynasty value is probably on the decline. Bayas Galan Gunbat says, where would you pick Robert Covington in a head-to-head league? No reason to think that Covington just can't be that top 40, top 35 guy again that he's been. He'll be playing a lot more power forward, so his rebound and block numbers should go up. Maybe that helps his field goal percentage, but he's an elite steals guy, gets blocks, rebounds, scores, hits threes, good free throw shooter. He's a top 40 sort of a guy. Bugsy Moog says, Thomas Satoransky, so his question here, I've got to reread this. Sato next season, or is Chicago where point guards go to die? No, Satoransky will be fine. He should be the starting point guard. Chris Dunn, I think, is out of there pretty convincingly. And Satoransky's a low ceiling, solid enough. And by low ceiling, I mean he can probably get to top 60 if everything works out in his favor. But otherwise, he's a guy you pick in that later couple of rounds to be solid enough. Okay. Jay says, I would like you to rank some waiver wire guys in Dynasty. Kevon Looney, Dwighty Powell, Normie Powell, Anthony Simons, and Kyle Anderson. Well, out of those guys, the highest ceiling player there is Anthony Simons, no doubt. But for this season, I'm really interested in Kevon Looney. The Warriors are going to play him a lot by all reports. Anderson already talked about. Norm Powell, there's an opportunity with Dan Green and Kawhi Leonard both going. Simons is the real long-term guy, even though the Blazers just locked up Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum for about $20 billion for the next couple of seasons. But Simons is the interesting one there. For this season, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Kevon Looney. All right, let's have a look. Trae Young in the 15 to 20 range? Yep, probably. Thinking 20 and 10 with great free throw. Yep, 20 and 10. That 20 I think is minimum. Raymond Magyawi. Will Capella's value increase or dip with Westbrook around grabbing rebounds? You have to think it dips. I think that Westbrook is going to take some rebounds off him, and that means his value goes. And will Stevie Adams be a monster on the boards? Now, will he be a monster? Don't know about that. Will his rebounds increase? Almost guaranteed that Steve Adams's rebounds will increase. Patrick says, is it foolish to punt 4 categories and go hard on the other 5 in a 9-cat league? Now, a lot of people would tell you, yes, it's ridiculous. What if one of your guys gets hurt? But the whole idea of going hard on 5 categories is to have so much insulation in those areas that it doesn't really matter whether guys get hurt or if you have a bad week. You've got so much insulation. Now, I probably wouldn't go into a draft and punt 4 categories. It's been known to have been done before. I know Mark Roberts has done it in leagues before, and it works out. I've done it before in leagues, not starting off that way, but assess my team after 4 or 5 weeks and going, well, I'm in the middle of the pack here. What am I going to do? Gone that and gone through and won the league just by winning every round 5-4. It can get a little bit tough. Now, in a most categories wins league, it's harder. I tell you why that is, because say you're in a most categories window, if 5-4 equals the same win as a 7-2 win, right? That can make it, and I guess it sounds counterintuitive because you go, well, Josh, in that case, in a most wins league, wouldn't it be, if a 5-4 wins the same as a 7-2, you're on an equal playing field? But the difference there is if one of those categories swings and you lose 4-5, you get 0. Whereas in an each category, instead of getting 5-4, you get 4-5. So it's not that big of a dip from what you've done before. So when we look at these players and their projections and how you're going to do it, it's probably not an ideal situation to go into a draft doing that. But can it be successful? Absolutely. It's just really, really tough to go through. Let's have a look. Who are the players going to take the biggest leap forward this coming season? Good question. The Baptist John Collins, really, really interested in what he's going to do. I think Karis LeVert's going to be a monster for Brooklyn this season. There are a couple of guys that I've looked at so far. I'll get back to this question from Evs Wags because I can't pronounce your name because it is written in Chinese characters. This is a quick update of how your travels went. Hope you had a nice trip. As a Nets fan, I'm wondering how you see the Allen Jordan minutes being split at center. I think Allen's going to start. I think he played 26 minutes a game last season. Getting above that is going to be pretty tough. DeAndre Jordan's defense really does suck at the moment. He's a rebound thief, low effort sort of a player. But of course, the friendship of him with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, is that going to play a part? I think that Allen's going to be a late round guy, but a lot of fluctuations in his playing time. Travels, fantastic, as I mentioned. We'll go into that a little bit more. But if you do want to check out my travels on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be posting travel vlogs. The first one from San Francisco is up there already, a 10-minute video of our 3 days in San Francisco. And the other ones will go up over the period of time as we begin to edit those videos. Mike Austin, who on the Hornets will be worth drafting? Of course, Terry Rozier will be worth drafting. Miles Bridges will be worth drafting. It's getting tough after that. Nick Batum, probably worth a late round pick, but otherwise their team is looking pretty bare. Dwayne Bacon is very much an empty stats sort of a player, but he's going to have an opportunity. PJ Washington, Marvin Williams, Cody Zeller, none of these guys I have really all that high hopes for. It's going to be a lot of Miles Bridges, a lot of Terry Rozier, and some Dwayne Bacon in there as well. John Class says, I've got Johnny Collins, the Baptist, in a Dynasty League. I love the points and rebounds, don't we all? His defensive stats dipped last season. Do you see his blocks and steals returning? Yes. I tell you why. Because when you look at John Collins' numbers, I'm going to make this number up, but the first 25 games last season, he recorded like 1 block and 0 steals. They were numbers that had absolutely 0 chance of being able to sustain. And then the last 20 or so games of the season, the blocks went back up. 1.2, 1.3 blocks per game, 0.7, 0.6 steals. They started to go back up. They weren't quite at the rookie level, but they were getting back up there. And his overall numbers from last season are skewed by that ridiculous start where he literally just could not generate one single defensive stats for about 3 or 4 weeks, and that dropped his overall numbers down. So yes, I think they will go back up. Let's have a look here. Dwight Wiz says, if we are playing fantasy b-ball, why do so many leagues include percentages? If it's fantasy, I don't like to have to knock a complete beast counting stat-wise because he may be bad at free throws or is a volume shooter. There's a really easy solution to this, Dwight Wiz. Don't play percentages. It's your choice. Now, fantasy doesn't mean this is my ideal scenario, so everything has to be the way that I love it. The reason we include that is to try and create some balance in the game, balance between bigs and smalls, and some percentage categories, ratio categories that aren't based completely on volume. But you're setting up your league. It's your league. Do whatever you want. If you don't want to put counting stats, if you don't want to put percentages in there because you don't want players to get knocked because they're bad free throw shooters, don't put them in there. That's the simple answer. SE, are you doing team preview pods again this year? Yes. If so, when do they start? Haven't worked it out, but we'll be around the end of August, start of September. And the last question from Jan Smith, got through nearly all these questions, says, are you aboard the Anthony Simons hype train? I'm probably just sort of hanging off the edge, really tucking myself in, but hanging on. I see a lot there with him. Opportunity is going to be tough with McCollum and Lillard both there for the long term on massive contracts. So getting that level of opportunity is tough. But we saw Seth Curry play pretty well in those minutes. Could Simons work into that? I value him higher than Big Gaz Trent Jr. I think Simons is better than that. I think he's got a real high amount of upside. So yeah, I am for this season probably not going to be a standard league player. Guys, that'll do it. I don't know how many questions we ended up getting to, but we got through a lot here. Make sure you are checking out Locked On NBA. Trevor Booker was on yesterday's show talking about title contenders. I'll be back hosting Monday's show as of next week. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Check out Manscaping at manscaped.com with the promo code locked on. That's manscaped.com. So check out Manscaped over there, and bombas.com/locked as well for your offers. Subscribe to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, all those great things. Red Rock Challenge Leagues, info coming out soon. Patreon.com/redrock_bball. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Frank Costanza.